Hello, all you sports fans out there, and welcome to a sports show. It's a comedy, the Hot Seat Sports Talk. I'm saying the intro this week because we are joined by a former Michigan State Spartan and Los Angeles Clippers, my personal favorite team, Mr. Paul Davis. And thank you for coming here today.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for being here. Before we get into what you should talk about, we're going to start off a couple questions for you.
Sure.
About your time at Michigan State. In your last season at Michigan State, you guys went all the way to the Final Four. It's on my shirt, 2005. And you guys ended up beating Duke and Kentucky to end up getting to that Final Four. What was it like for you when that last second went off against Kentucky, knowing that you guys were going to the Final Four?
So how it was set up before the horn, there was 0.4 seconds. Obviously, we knew we were going to win. And this was after a double overtime, I think one of the best Elite Eight games in the history of the tournament. So we were, sitting on a bench ready to rush the court and celebrate. And, you had a couple seconds just to realize, how much work we did the whole season, how much work you do your whole life. And then it's finally there, seeing the Final Four, putting on the hats, putting on the shirts. It's just a huge payoff. It's almost like winning the national championship, but you kind of reset, and the Final Four is a whole different animal. So it's hard to understand what you did and what it means while you're in it. You really understand when you reflect when you leave college.
I know. I was low when you guys got to that Final Four, but seeing all these other state teams, it feels like you're a part of the team when the school you're rooting for is at the biggest stage possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of secluded from a lot of the fan stuff while you're in it, just kind of to stay focused, obviously, but they're part of it. I mean, the fans are just as big a part of the team as we are, and the support you see, not just when you're playing at home or playing, let's say, going down to Detroit, but when you go on the road. Especially in the tournament, you see these fans, that are wearing MSU shirts from California, from Washington, from Florida, wherever, that, your reach goes much, much farther than just the state.
And you played under Coach Izzo, one of the best coaches that ever coached in college basketball, or frankly, ever. And myself and Eric were wondering, because we see what Coach Izzo's like, and interviews and during games, but what's he like in practice and stuff that we don't usually get to see?
So being a head coach, I think, in college, especially college basketball, probably is the hardest position in coaching at any level, because you don't just have the team and the coaches and scouting, but you have a whole nother animal of the board of the university, donors, things like that. So whenever he's in practice and those doors are closed, it's complete focus. It was an amazing experience looking back, being under coach and seeing every day the unbelievable amount of determination, enthusiasm, passion. I mean, every single day, because when the coach has it, it feeds on down, and the players get it. So he demanded that we have a perfect practice every single day. That's the goal. And during my time there, we would have commentators and media come to our practices, and they said that MSU practices harder than any team in the country. And so when you can get practice, when you can make practice as competitive of the games, and his goal was almost to make practice harder than the games. So when you do come to a game, it's you're using the guys that you go against and practice and fight with and all these things, and then now you're taking it out on somebody else. So if you can make practice just so intense, so lively, and get everything done, the game is almost a little easier as opposed to doing it reverse.
Yeah, because during the week I watched all the biggest highlights from those seasons, and Coach Izzo, compared to now, he actually had color in his hair then. I'm sure. I know it takes a toll, and especially this year, it took a toll on him and the university itself. So
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a tough thing, and this year was tough on these guys where they had no responsibility for things that happened in the past, but they have to kind of shoulder the burden. And I was really proud, not just as an alumni, but as a former player, of how the team handled it. And we were so close to making another run, but that's the animal that is March Madness. You can have an amazing season, and then in 40 minutes it's over. So to get to the Final Four, to win a championship, whoever gets there really deserves it, because they stay focused, and Villanova had the formula. They were the most consistent team.
Do you still keep in touch with Tom Izzo or other guys on the team?
Yeah, so the great thing about Michigan State, which I know it doesn't happen on the same level as we do, is every year we have 2 reunions during the football season and the basketball season, and we get maybe 100 guys, former managers, players, and coaches come back. So MSU has a real good network of former players staying in touch and wanting to come back, because once you leave, now your job is to help those guys that are on the team now and explain to them what you went through, that these things are normal, this is what it takes. So it's a great relationship. It's even better after you leave, because coach, he's one of the top coaches, and it doesn't mean just on the basketball court, it means off the court. He's going to help you until the day he dies.
Did you feel a sense of pressure, like that as dominant you were at Michigan State, to go pro, that these college analysts were putting you on the spot at your last year of state? And also, did Coach Izzo recommend that you go pro, or did he ask you to stay for one more season?
Well, my senior year, I had a great senior year in high school, and every year the NBA was an option. Coach, he couldn't make that decision. He would never tell you yes or no. He would lay out his thoughts of where you're at and where you could go, but it's ultimately the player's decision. And I probably would have gone higher if I left after my freshman or sophomore, even junior year. But to be honest, I was enjoying college. I was enjoying playing. I was enjoying the college atmosphere. The friends. The NBA is always going to be there, and so for me, I wanted to enjoy that college experience. You're never ever going to get it back. And looking back, listen, you can make money, you can stay, have a long career, but the biggest thing is just preparing yourself going into the NBA, because it becomes a business from day one. High school and college is one thing, but all of a sudden you're working for somebody, and you have to produce your name on a piece of paper. And so it's a big jump going from college to the NBA, and I think everybody has to be ready. And the guys coming from freshmen, one and done, they're not mentally ready. No matter what anybody says, they're not mentally or physically ready. Now there's a few that do, but as a whole, I think it's always the best to stay at least one more year in college.
When you guys were on the road for some tournaments or exhibition games, did you guys ever stop anywhere and just go to camps with other teams or practices?
No, so when traveling on the road for games, they really itemize, get your itinerary for the 2 days. So we would usually practice in East Lansing, and if we were going to Purdue, then we'd fly down. The next morning we'd have shoot around, which would be closed to us, and then we'd have the game. So there's no interaction with the other team while we're on the road. They have their own practice time. We have our own practice time. Now during the summer, guys might get together and go to different camps, but a lot of summer, you usually get the first semester off in summer, and then second summer semester we're up there taking classes and doing our preseason workouts.
Back Eric's question. When you guys are out on the road, did you guys get tutors for your education when you're out on the road? Like, how does that work for college athletes?
So we have a great center. It's called the Smith Center. Steve Smith donated a great chunk of money to help that. And depending on what time of year, depending on what each individual player had, if he had a huge test or a huge exam or paper to write, the tutors would come on the road if we needed it. Now, obviously, they're taken away from what they're doing in school, so It's a huge help, but it just depends. It's not every trip. It just depends if a player has something extremely important that needs to get done. Now, if they don't come on the road, our schedule is classes until 3, practice until 6, and then we would go do our tutors until 9 o'clock. So if you don't get it on the road, then you're definitely in there a few times a week.
So we've asked a few other guests that have been on here that are college athletes. Do you think college athletes should be paid?
It's a tough, it's a tough answer. The short one is, even though they're not receiving actual money, they're receiving an education which is unbelievably expensive, housing, food, books. So over the course of 4 years at a major university, it could be around $200,000 that one person needs. I mean, you're getting clothes, you're getting everything you need. So that's, even though we're not getting actual money in the bank account, you're getting a lot of things paid for that normal college kids won't have or have access to. Now, with that being said, football and basketball brings in a lot of money for schools. I mean, especially football. If you pay, the 2 high-profile teams, well, what about the other sports? What about the other athletes? Do you pay, a superstar as much as you pay a walk-on? And so it's a tough thing. I don't know if there's a quick, easy answer to it. I think I think a great way to put it is every year you stay, you'll get a certain amount of money. So if you stay all 4 years, you'll get the money. If guys leave early, then they're going to leave to make money. But if you stay all 4 years, maybe there's a small chunk of money that can be paid for somebody that sticks it out, because the university is picking up the tab for your 4 years.
I like that. I personally don't like the NBA's one and done. Well, I always thought they should change it to at least 2 years, if not 3, because not only because it's too early for like a 19-year-old to go into the NBA, they need an education on what they need to do after college. So it's because basketball is not going to be there until the day you retire.
No, and you could leave after your freshman year. You could have a terrible injury your first year, and then that's going to stick with you, and you might be out of sport, and then you have 50 more years of life. Mm-hmm. You've got to be able to handle yourself in the real world, and so it's tough. I agree. I think it should be 2 years. I know some guys go around and go to Europe right after high school, like Ball did. I mean, it's such a bad move. It just is not going to pay off, because no matter what, your career is going to be 10 years, give or take. You have so much more life to live and people to network with, which is where I'm at now, of getting into the business world. And so these guys, sure, what you did in sports, that's going to take you this far, but you've got to have a brain to take you through the rest of your life.
There you go. There you go, Ben, on that ball move. Last question about State. In the preseason, I looked at State's played against like Magic Johnson's All-Star team, the Harlem Globetrotters one year. What was that experience like, playing against those kind of like celebrity teams, if you will?
Well, my freshman year, we played against Harlem Globetrotters, and Magic teamed up with them, and that's Magic. He's just not one of the all-time best basketball players, but he's one of the all-time best guys, and he comes back when he can and helps the current team and former players, and we've played pickup games with him back when he was a little more active, and it's amazing. You see these Hall of Fame players, and I've played with Steve Nash and Baron Davis. I mean, you name it, and these guys make the game so much more easier than just normal players. It's unbelievable. You can see why they're as successful as they are. You just do what you do, and they'll get you the ball. So it's a cool thing. I mean, I've got a picture of me guarding Magic, and those things are what lasts a lifetime.
Yeah. Speaking of Magic, it's the NBA. It's the NBA playoffs, but the Lakers aren't in it. Both LA teams aren't in it. Sorry, Eric and Paul, obviously. So it's but we have 3 matchups tonight. Friday night we have Cleveland at Indiana. after Cleveland barely tied the series the other night, tied at 1-1. What do you think for Game 3? Who's going to, change the tide?
Well, for me, I think if a series is at 1-1, Game 3 is a huge one to pick up. Now, it's dangerous if you make LeBron James mad, and which is what the media did and maybe some of the fans did, and you can see how he responds. I think if Cleveland's going to win the series, LeBron has to have less than 5 turnovers a game. If he has more, that shows that he's trying to do everything. And then other guys are going to be a little hesitant to know, okay, when can I shoot? When do I back off? What do I do? So even though you have a huge talent, he still has to keep the other guys involved. He can't try and do it. And Indiana's going to be a tough matchup. I think it might go 6-7 games. I don't think it's going to be over quickly.
Oh, I agree. I think Indiana, they'll take it in 7 games. It's going to go down to the very end. It's more of a great competitive first round for Cleveland, other than the past when they've been just blowing out other teams in the past on their way to the final. So
yeah, it's a tough. It's a weird year. Nobody's necessarily really dominant in the East. So that's really a toss-up. Even though Boston was up there, but. Yeah. I think the East is a toss-up. I can't imagine that Houston would not at least have a great series against Golden State. That's what I'm looking forward to. So it'll be a good year for the playoffs.
Do you like Cleveland or Indy? I know it's a tough.
I'm thinking this one could definitely go either way at this point, but I have a feeling, just for Joe, I'm going to give it Cleveland in 7.
Cleveland for our former host that's no longer here. So
is Game 3? Is that in Cleveland?
It's in Indiana.
Oh, Indy. Okay.
Indiana for 2, Cleveland, Indiana, then Cleveland for Game 7. So then we have Toronto at Washington. Toronto's up 2-0. I think Washington can I think they can win a game here. I think they can maybe tie this series up going back to Toronto. It's interesting to look at.
Yeah, Toronto's had a good season throughout, and Washington, I'm not sure if Wall is back or he will be, but that's tough when you lose your star guy, let alone your point guard. So a really good friend of mine, ex-teammate Tomas Satoransky, is on Washington, but Toronto just, sometimes when you get that momentum, it's hard to take off a team like Toronto, but it'll be another good series. I can see Washington pulling out a game or 2.
I give Washington 1 or 2, and then Toronto's gonna
pull it out.
Yeah.
And then second seed in the Eastern Conference, Boston at Milwaukee. Boston's up 2-0. I think Giannis is gonna just dominate in Game 3, but I don't think they'll have enough to get it done.
I think overall Boston will pull it out, and that's another thing. Giannis is such a good talent, but I still think he's a couple years away from being a true leader. He's leading by example and by his stats, but to become a champion, and especially a finals kind of team at any level, you've got to have your star 1 or 2 guys be a leader in the locker room too. And I think he's close. I think he'll get there. But I also think he needs to get out of Milwaukee in order to cement his legacy in the NBA.
That's what we've discussed on the show. Because my favorite, most people who watch this know that the Spurs are my favorite team, and with the whole Leonard thing, the trade rumors and stuff, I personally think that trading Leonard for Giannis would be the best move for both teams. That would be a fantastic move for both teams.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting. It's still going to be interesting to see where Leonard goes in the offseason, as we talked about a bunch of times on this show.
Yeah, I can't just with the injury thing and the doctors clearing him, but he's away from the team. That's tough to come back. If the doctors clear you, you've got to be on at least the practice court, and so it might be time for them to separate to get Giannis there. Especially with Paul Gasol and LaMarcus kind of on their way out. He could be their guy for many years to come.
Especially with their older guards in Ginobili and Parker, they have to they have the younger guards getting ready to come up in Murray and Mills, but they have to have a core of that team, especially that team. As you know from experience, they have a winning culture, so it's
and they have great assistant coaches too. I know a few of the assistants, so it might be time for this little dynasty with Pop and Ginobili and those guys to kind of fade out, but they need to bring in young, hungry guys to kind of keep that going.
Yeah, and we'll see what they can do being down 3-0. So and we have Saturday at Philly is at Miami for the next game here. Philly's up 2-1 after Philly. After it got a little chippy at the end of that game.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I love old school basketball. So Philly's on a roll. I think they'll take this game. I think they'll take it 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's another young team that's doing some pretty cool things. But Miami's got any team that Pat Riley either coaches or is GM or president of, those teams are going to play hard. He's old school, and I've worked out for him in Miami, and they do things a little bit different than the rest of the league. So regardless, if Philly makes it out, they're going to be kind of battered and bruised, but whoever wins that series is definitely going to earn it.
And who do you, Miami or Philly? I know it's
I'm going to give Game 3 to Philly, but it's not going to be a sweep.
Okay.
I'm going to give Miami a few games. They're going to come back. They're going to get a little bit more into the game, being down.
Yeah, it's 2. It's 2-1.
Or
it's 2-1. It's 2-1. So you give them three games to a 7.
I'll give them 7.
That'd be entertaining. That'd be entertaining to see. And Oklahoma City's at Utah. That series is tied at 1. I want to see Westbrook go on. I want to. So I think they'll go into Utah, just dominate him. George and Anthony will just go in and just take care of business and head home for the clincher.
Yeah, it's Westbrook. It might be good for him to get out of Oklahoma at some point, or at least bring in. I know they brought in some talent, but Carmelo and Paul George are kind of the same guy, and for Carmelo to be as talented and bounce around to some teams, what that means is he wants to play, but there's another level of what a superstar needs to bring, and Westbrook has enough for that whole team. I just think, to be honest, they need to substitute Carmelo or Paul George and get just a younger, hungry, literally will do anything and everything for the team kind of mentality.
Man, George's contract is up, and the rumors are still him in L.A., either the Clippers or the Lakers, him to team up with Ball, and it'll be interesting to see what Oklahoma City can do to get people in there. So
sure, it's tough for superstar players to be in maybe smaller markets like Milwaukee, Oklahoma, Utah. The media is a little different. Just the endorsement, all these things are a little bit different in the smaller markets. So, look for a few guys to get, go from maybe smaller cities, so to speak, to, some big time ones.
So, fun, OKC or Utah, or is Utah going to say, okay, we'll see you later?
Definitely OKC taking this one.
And how many?
I don't know about this one. Maybe 5 or 6.
5 or 6. Utah's they're there, but they're not ready to compete yet.
I think
they're young.
Compete a little bit, but they're still kind of young, like you said. They could use a little bit more experience. They're going against some veteran players with a lot of talent.
Yeah. And speaking of veterans in Houston are taking care of Minnesota after Game 2, after that blowout. I think Houston's just going to clean sweep this one.
Yeah.
They're on their way. As you said, Paul. They're Golden State and Houston in the finals, or maybe even New Orleans has been dominant, so dominant. I'd like to see New Orleans in the Western Conference Final. That'd be entertaining to see.
Yeah, I think if Cousins didn't get hurt, that might have been the scenario, Anthony Davis is, that's kind of what I'm talking about with Giannis. He's a few years ahead. Anthony Davis, the next 3-4 years are really his years to shine and to win. And they were doing that in New Orleans. And then, you lose a big player. But I think Houston, they're just kind of on a roll. And like I said, sometimes that momentum carries you pretty far. And so it'll be the Golden State and Houston at that matchup. I'd like to see 7 games.
Yeah, it's. Do you like them in a sweep?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a sweep. So, and now it's because you Paul have had such a built up such a great resume. We have more questions about your pro career. And to start off, in my opinion, you played in the golden era of the NBA. You went up guys against, like you said, Steve Nash, Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, James, Nowitzki, Kidd, Kobe, Anthony, Ivers, just to name a few of the guys that were in the league at that time. What was it like to share and play in the league as these great Hall of Famers?
It's such a weird feeling because a lot of the guys you obviously grow up watching, and some like Kevin Garnett, I had his poster in my room, and then to be on the court with them and just see how intense these guys are night in and night out. Starting against the Lakers when it's a Laker home game, and it's Kobe and Powell and Lamar Odom, all these guys with you have the Hollywood celebrities on the court. I mean, it's an unbelievable experience. It's not hard to see when you're actually on the court why these guys are where they're at. I mean, guarding Kobe is there's no player that can get his shot off, whether it be a three or get to the basket, better than him. He's just so crafty, and he does things that you just don't see other players do. Playing against LeBron, he's like a big guy, but he's a freight train. You can't slow him down when he gets going. I got to play against Shaq when he was on his way out, so luckily he wasn't moving as good as he used to. But the hardest guy to ever guard was Yao Ming. I mean, he was 7'6", heavy. You can't block a shot. You can't do anything like that. You just got to keep him out as far as you can from the paint and just hope for the best.
And my guys that when I played basketball I looked up to are Steve Nash and Ginobili. They are the guys that made me play the game. And you played against Steve Nash 4 times, and that division in Ginobili 3 times a year. So, did you talk to these guys when you were on the court with them, and what was the conversations like, pre-game and post-game and during the game?
With Steve, we actually got to be pretty close. I luckily was able to go with him and Yao Ming, Baron Davis, Carmelo Anthony, Leandro Barbosa. We went over to Beijing for a charity game that Steve Nash and Yao Ming were putting on. So got to fly over with them and really get to know them off the court. But the one time I played with Steve was in that game. He was our point guard, and I've never played with a better point guard. It's just unbelievable. Like I said, you go through your normal pick and rolls or run in the courts, and he finds a way to get you the ball at the right time where you don't have to do anything with it but shoot it. And it's so different than maybe just your average point guard playing who's good, but these guys are at another level. And same with Jason Kidd. We'd play pickup during the summer at UCLA, and it's unbelievable how these guys see the court. They're talking even when it's not a regular game. So never think that these guys are just a little bit better than the rest. They separate themselves.
In addition to you playing against all of these Hall of Famer, eventual Hall of Famers, who's the biggest trash talker, biggest instigator on the court? Luckily I didn't have to really guard him, but Kobe, he just had that Jordan mentality of, especially if somebody was trying to maybe body him or guard him a little harder, that just made him more mad, and you could hear him getting going. And so I think the biggest part of that for him and Jordan was if these guys just come out and play, it's kind of an easy game, so they want to make
you know, especially back then with Reggie Miller at the Knicks, all those guys, everybody talked trash. So I don't think it happens as much anymore. If it does, unfortunately, they're talking trash on social media, which you know, if you're going to do it on the court, face to face,
and then prove it.
Yeah.
And prove it while you're doing it. So it's
to talk trash to the NBA, you've got to have the game to back it up.
Yeah. Well.
So, you played in LA with guys like Sean Livingston, Elton Brand, and Sam Castle. Do you still talk to the guys that you played with in the NBA?
There's a few, you know, luckily with, you know, social media, able to stay in contact, you know, with Tim Thomas, Katino Mobley, you know, these guys, and you know, guys kind of go their separate ways when you leave a team. But if I'm ever run into them, like I ran into Livingston when you know, they came to Detroit to play, and you know, I was there when he had his horrific knee injury that happened. So the good thing about the NBA is that guys understand that you can be here one day and gone the next. So you know, you build a relationship, and anywhere you go, you know, guys are still always around and able to stay in contact with. I had a great group of guys that, you know, I was the only rookie on the team, and they kind of took me under their wing. And, you know, so I couldn't have asked for a better, you know, first team to get on with those guys.
And with traveling in the NBA, in between cities, especially if you guys have a back-to-back, you know, how did you and your other teammates adjust going from you're in one city, you know, at like 8 o'clock, and then the next city you're in the next, getting ready for the next game?
So it's tough, especially your first couple years, getting used to the travel. Now, being in LA, we would go to the East Coast for a 2-week road trip. We played 8 games in 12 days. The toughest is when you play 4 games in 5 days, and obviously they're all in different cities. You know, the back-to-back, you leave right after the game, get in at 2, 3 in the morning, then you have a game that night. So what separates, I guess, maybe guys, let's say in the D-League or in the pros in college, is that it's all on you to make sure you get your sleep. It's all on you to make sure you get the proper food and, you know, rest time and taking care of your body. That's the biggest thing in the NBA that's different. So it's tough. You really have to kind of get your routine of whether it's getting to the gym a couple hours before. There's just so many games and you're in so many gyms. To have a personal routine that you fit in along with the team one is key. And that a routine could be stuff working out, or a routine could be, you know, how you eat and kind of when you eat. So it's difficult. It takes a couple years to kind of get it down, but once you do, you know, it can really help you.
With you being in the NBA, you've been around the media a lot, and you know, hear a lot of reporting. Does the media manipulate or false report a lot of this information that's going out to their fans? Are they fooling their fans? Is it's hiding the truth from a lot of different things in the league?
You know, sometimes the media likes to speculate, and that it's dangerous, because if it's something that's not great, then, you know, the general public might take it and run with it. And especially nowadays with social media, if somebody says, oh, this might have happened, and boom, it's out there for the world to see. And, you know, like I said, if it's something bad, it could ruin a player's reputation, it could ruin their career. So, you know, what I think the media needs to really focus on, and, you know, not just political stuff, but sports stuff, is, you know, just reporting what you hear and what you see. And if you don't know, you can't put it out there. So, you know, nobody reads the paper, unfortunately, for just normal, everyday news, whether it be from the world or from sports. You know, the media is always looking for this juicy story, and that's dangerous. So there's good guys in the media that, you know, are fair. You know, they can challenge teams and players. But then there's some that take it a little far, and, you know, then you kind of lose the respect as a player to the media. So it's tough. You definitely have to be careful what you say, because some people can just take your words and twist them.
Do you think the media is too much involved with like the four major sports, or in our case, the NBA?
You know, it's a big moneymaker for the media outlet. I think it's great because it does give access for fans that normally wouldn't have it. So, but there's, like I said, there also comes a responsibility with it. I think every player is obviously sick of the media after a certain period of time. If you win, everything's okay. If you lose, you don't want to talk to anybody. But it's just they have a responsibility as much as they want access to players. What the player says has to be, that's the story. Not changing words or anything like that, because like I said, it can really hurt a player's brand if a story gets out there that isn't fully true.
In addition to Eric's previous question, you spent some time in Washington. You play guys like JaVale McGee, Mike Miller, Gil Arenas, and Nick Young, and John Livingston again. Do you still keep in touch with the guys that you were with Washington?
Not on a normal basis, but like I said, I had a pretty good group of guys. Although that was the year that Gilbert Arenas and Crinton got into that gun thing. But when you're in the NBA for, let's say, if you make it 5, 6, 7 into 10 years, these guys are pros, and what that means is they come in, they're not screwing around. They have their routine. Like I said, they practice hard. And Mike Miller was one like that. Who else on the team? Even though Gilbert was a little crazy, I mean, he's a talented guy, wanted to win. JaVale McGee was just coming into the league, and same with Nick Young. And those guys are different animals, but you can't teach 8-foot wingspan and the athleticism that he has. So he's from where he was the first year, I think it was a rookie, JaVale McGee, to now where he's at. He's definitely gotten back. You mature big time. Every year you're in the league, you mature.
So did Sean, and he got better as he kept progressing, and look, we're both your former teammates are now we're Golden State, and they're having major success. So
NBA is all about, first of all, staying healthy, taking care of your body. Then it's about being in the right situation,
right place at the right time.
Guys could, perfect example of, Draymond Green is one of the hardest workers and most passionate players, and maybe things would not be as the biggest stage, let's say if he went to Utah or went to Milwaukee, but being in that situation, he's able to fit the piece of the puzzle that makes him successful. So like I said, the first is taking care of your body, being healthy, but also the right situation is key.
And in your time when you're with LA, and then in Washington, you're in LA, you're coached by Mike Dunleavy Sr., and in Washington, Flip Saunders. And was there any life lessons that Coach Dunleavy Sr. and Saunders taught you that you still live by today?
Well, those are two of the old school coaches. Dunleavy he's kind of a player's coach. He played, he understands what we go through, and so it's not like it is in college where they're yelling and screaming. You are treated like an adult, but you are expected to do your job and do your part. So with Mike Dunleavy, he loved watching film and breaking things down. He was extremely knowledgeable about the game, so that really helped prepping for games. With Flip, he was a passionate coach. This is how you do things when you're coached by me. He didn't let the players run the practices. He had his plan, and that's how you do things, and that's how he was successful. My first game with Flip, before the game, our first game of the season, he said, "Listen, I don't have 82 motivational speeches. You guys are going to have to get yourself motivated. It doesn't matter what I do." And so that's the difference. In college, you get a motivational speech before every single game and halftime. In the NBA, everybody's got their job. Everybody's expected to do it, and so that's why I think some of these coaches are successful, is that they've got their plan down.
And along with, unfortunately, Coach Saunders that passed away a few years ago, along with one of the NBA's greatest commentators and reporters, Craig Sager. It's one of the reasons why this show is, like, we're sitting here now is because of Craig, as he is my inspiration. Did you, like, in your career, did you talk to Craig at all? What did he say? What was he like? Most of them say that he was a fun person, an energetic person. He loved his job. What was your experience like with Craig?
I didn't have a lot of one-on-one time with him, but he was obviously around. And, for a media guy to be really loved by the players as a whole, that really does say something. Because, like I said, sometimes media can pry and try and get information. But, Craig he loved the game. He loved being around. He was fair. If he was, criticizing a team or player, but like I was saying, he sees what he sees. He reads. He lets the players say what they want to say. You could tell that he didn't have any ulterior motive. He just wanted to be around, and that's why he was so loved, and because he did things the right way. He let the player's game speak for itself, and the player give you the information as opposed to him trying to make up the information.
And you spent some time in the EuroLeague. Was it kind of weird adapting to the time differences there and what it was like?
And the culture,
Yeah.
and just trying to switch leagues.
Yeah, that's a whole nother animal. When you sign with a team, I signed in Spain for 2 years, and you take the flight over, and then you get there. Somebody from the team meets you. They take you to, find your house or apartment. But once you get to the apartment and they leave, it's on you to figure out, where you're going to get your food, what restaurants, how to get to the gym, and forget, the language barrier too, the culture. And what some Americans, why they don't make it in Europe is because they try and, they just come in without understanding that you're in somebody else's country. You have to act how they act, and you have to kind of immerse yourself in their culture. You can't be an arrogant American coming over there. So that's almost first before basketball is teams over there knowing that you can adjust, that you respect where you're at, you respect your teammates, even though you may be physically better than them. Things like that is that you're coming in and you're being part of the team. Team sports are huge in Europe, and so that was a big adjustment. But I had great teammates. It was a great city, and it's a great life living over there, traveling around Europe and the world. Playing basketball, obviously the goal is NBA, but it's a great way to live.
You've had some injury history. If an NBA or any team called and asked for your services or like any way to be a part of their organization, would you accept it?
Yeah, I would, and we're going to try and get involved with the Pistons at some point when we know what happens with their coaching staff. I still really enjoy working with guys on the court, and with my history of college, NBA, injuries, Europe, there's nothing I haven't seen in the game of basketball, and I can kind of help guys not just on the court but off the court. And I think the big man position is slowly fading away, so it's great to be able to work with big guys. It's still a huge part of the game, even though sometimes teams like Golden State make it seem like it's not necessary. Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely love to be in. It's a great organization as a whole to be involved in the NBA. Obviously, every day you're working towards a goal. Every day you're traveling. You're in front of 20,000 people. But it's good when you have a team from top to bottom who's focused on trying to win a championship.
You appeared on Millionaire Matchmaker.
Oh, you guys ask about that, huh?
What was that like?
So that was when I was in LA. I was rehabbing an ACL injury, and then actually turned them down a few times. But I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. I didn't realize how big I didn't realize how big the show was or how big Bravo was after it aired. Everywhere I went, didn't matter what state, what city, people were recognizing me, not for basketball, but for that. So it was interesting. I'd never do it again, but I did enjoy the process. It's pretty cool to see reality TV from kind of behind the scenes. It's not completely reality. They stop, they redo the scene, they give you talking points. So it was fun. It was definitely an experience. I was blown away by how many people watch that show, and still to this day, not just you guys, but people bring it up from time to time. So it was a fun experience, but it definitely will not happen again.
Are you involved in any charity work?
So I'm on the board for, or going to be on the board for a charity called Fleece and Thank You, and what we do is you can go on fleeceandthankyou.org. You go on the website and you get a blanket kit to make at home, and it takes 15 minutes to make it, $20. And the best thing, what it does is it goes to kids in hospitals that can't leave for a period of time. And I think the cool thing is you attach a 10-second video message for the child, and so they see who exactly made it, a little inspirational message, and then they send one back to you. So we're trying to get that out. We're in a lot of hospitals in Michigan. We're trying to get kids involved in schools, but it's a great thing. We have to make sure that these kids don't feel like they're forgotten.
And obviously, I know, and my partners know that you're also involved with Michael Sadler's foundation a little bit. Watching you in that game and giving back to Mike and all those guys, it's truly amazing. And with your charity, Fleece and Thank You, it's it's a great thing. It's a great thing that you're doing, and hopefully we'll get to see you as a assistant coach on the Pistons soon. But you're doing great things in the community. So
well, yeah, I appreciate that, and I think everybody, and you don't have to be an athlete to give back. I definitely challenge people to give a little time each month, because there's a lot of charities, there's a lot of situations and people that need it, and so I'm just trying to do my small part and bring other people along. But it's been a great career that has been able to build up certain things, moving on to the next part of my life. But a big part is charity organizations.
Well, that's great. And Paul, we appreciate it so much that you came in here today. It was a great day, and that's all we got for this week. We'll be back on Tuesday. Is one of your guys that you play with in that game, Tory Jackson, will be here with us. And the week after, once we get into May, former MSU running back Edwin Baker will be here with us. So something great to look forward to.
That's great. I think you guys are doing a great job, and definitely anytime I can get back in here, that'd be great.
We'd love to have you back, and all the other guests that we've had this year. So until we're back.